ir dabartinės profesijos.
Dear colleagues, good morning. Slowly but surely we are coming into the hall, starting our joint event. So once again, good morning, dear colleagues, guests, friends, participants of this event, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to Kaunas, to our joint Transform4Europe Conference-Hackathon dedicated to innovative methods. I have to admit, I was so confused what a hackathon was at the beginning. I hope I will learn about this during these days. I would like to emphasize that this is an event of our European University Alliance, that we have gathered to talk, to share our experience, but also to exercise something new together. This meeting is especially important because since the beginning of our Alliance life, we have been forced to get to know each other and to talk at a distance. And there have not been so many events that invite a large group of participants. Therefore, this moment is wonderful because we will definitely feel the mood, attitude, and the spirit of our community. The theme of this conference invites discussion about the forms and methods of teaching and learning. And we know already that there are many of them useful, interesting, and innovative. However, it is also and always very important to put the content into the form. The arrival of digital technologies into the classroom has radically changed the way teachers and students access, produce, and share knowledge. Today we live in an environment where technology and innovation are all we talk in academia. But we need to keep focus on the pedagogical and ethical principles of higher education, even when we get so enthusiastic about the potentials of technology and innovation. It is all too easy to tear the universities down, to technologize it, to remove the walls, but the difficult question is how to attain the synergy of teaching and technology without losing sensitivity for ethical and moral values, and how to preserve the humanistic nature of university. I believe that our community will find the way to keep a balance. At the university, and the university will remain not only a unique place destined to prepare students to understand as well as influence the diverse social forces that shape our lives, but also it will remain a special space of the public sphere that we all could be able to combine our hope, expectations, and moral responsibilities. So I wish that these days in Kaunas will be a platform for interesting and inspiring discussions and debate, as well as the time for beautiful and small discoveries. So thank you for this moment to listen to introductory words, but without any further ado, I would like to invite our rector, Professor Juozas Augutis, to say a welcome word.
Okay, thank you very much. dear delegates of the universities of Transform4Europe Alliance, members of Vytautas Magnus University, Vice Minister, I congratulate you on coming to Kaunas to take part on this international conference hackathon. It's nice word. We are very pleased to have the opportunity to welcome so many scholars from different universities around the world to Vytautas Magnus University. Your ideas and innovative methods shaping the future of higher education, I hope, and transforming teaching and learning practice. University is not longer just a place of knowledge. First of all, it's not longer a specific place. This has been demonstrated by our participation in the Transform4Europe Alliance, where both students and teachers freely exchange not only best practice, but also places of study and work. Also, university is not longer just a source of knowledge. It has space for questions, research, opinion, and creativity. Learning is a significant part of human life. To prevent this loss of the skills, we need to take education beyond textbooks or exams. Being part of the Transform4Europe Alliance, we have much more potential than being alone to create a vision for the future of higher education and make it a reality. I believe that over time, more universities will join the alliances, strengthening the opportunities for all of us to improve. Once again, I would like to thank all the speakers and participants for taking time to join this conference live or remotely. I wish you interesting experience, new partnerships, and of course, exciting plans for future. Thank you very much and have a nice conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And we know that today's agenda is very, very busy, so we appreciate your time shared with us. And I'm also very happy that we have representative of our Ministry of Education and Science and Sports of the Republic of Lithuania. So Mr. Andrius Zalitis, the advisor to Minister, and I would add the support, the great support of the alliances, and we're extremely happy that Andrius is here today. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you. So hello, everybody. I'm happy to see one more community of the alliances that our universities are members of. And I'm grateful for the chance to say a few welcoming words to all of you today. I really believe that the European University Initiative is one of the bravest and the most promising ideas that has come out of the European Union's policy on higher education. I think it builds on the foundations of the Bologna process, something that we have achieved in the past, and it continues this idea that higher education institutions in Europe should come closer together and share experiences, cooperate in forms that we are all quite used to. But it brings it a little bit further and says that not only should we talk about the stuff we know, the lessons that we have experienced, but also look for structural changes, ways to create long-lasting cooperation that would enable us to eventually build a European university of the future. And while I say a European University of the future, I know that we don't know what that is. And from the day one when the European Commission invited delegates from member states to a working group that was drafting the first call of the European Universities Initiative, it was clear to everybody participating that it is an experiment that has very broad and very long-lasting implications and objectives. And as experiments tend to do, sometimes they fail. And we thought that it's going to be excellent and it's going to be very impactful, even if we achieve a part of those objectives that were set at the level of the European Union. And I think we are on our way to actually, looking for ways to cooperate and building this new model, this new vision of a true European university. And even if the experiment is half successful, which would be completely okay, it would be actually quite excellent, I think it will bring a lot of benefit to all of us. More chances and opportunities to our teachers, students, administrators, more competitive higher education sector of Europe in a worldwide scale, and also completely new ideas in how we should carry out our studies, how we should cooperate in research, and so on. Of course, I have to be honest that as a past student representative, well, while I understand the complete scope and the ambition of the European University Initiative, I have a bias and I'm more interested in topics that are directly connected to the study process itself. So this is why I am a little bit jealous of all of you, that you'll have a few days to discuss a variety of very interesting and I would say breakthrough potential topics, from micro-credentials to various aspects of study flexibility, teaching excellence, project-based teaching, and so on. And I would like to say that looking at the agenda of your meeting, it is very clear that the Alliance Transform for Europe is very serious about the transforming part. So good luck with that, and I hope this is going to be a very important stepping stone in this transformation. Have a great conference. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we are experimenting, we are piloting, we are testing new ideas, processes, and teaching methods. And if even we will fail, I think we will get some kind of experience, and the experience is very important. Now I would like to invite our dear colleague, Zina Schmidt, who is coming from Saarland University, our coordinating partner. And Zina is a Transform for Europe manager. Actually, some of us are here, and we came 3 days ago from Saarland University in Saarbrücken. It seems that we will be seeing each other like in 3 days in a row. So maybe next stop will be in Sofia or somewhere else, close to Lithuania. So please, the floor is yours. And Zina will give a short overview of the Alliance for those who are not familiar, and maybe you will have some questions afterwards.
Okay, good morning all. Thank you very much to our amazing hosts at Vytautas Magnus University. And thank you to the audience, for the participants of this conference, for being here, for making this project, or this alliance, better say, come alive. So, as Ineta already introduced me, I'm going to prepare, or to present, better say, a short introduction to the work of our alliance, who we are, who our partners are, and what we concretely do to achieve. I will just try to share my screen, if it... Escape, please. Where's the escape button? Oh, okay. Okay, I'm really not good with technical devices, so please bear with me. As I said, I will prepare to you our partner universities. At the moment, we are 7 partner universities, and as you can see, our consortium is quite geographically diverse. So we have partners here, of course, at Vytautas Magnus University in Lithuania. Then far up north, we have the Estonian Academy of the Arts in Estonia. We have the University of Silesia in Katowice in Poland. Then the small corner in Germany you can see here is my home institution, Saarland University. We have the University of Alicante, far down in the southwest, beautifully located close to the sea. We have the University of Trieste, also beautifully located next to the sea. And last but not least, we have the Sofia University in our consortium. At the beginning, I said we have 7 partner universities at the moment. And as you can see in this picture, which was taken during Transform for Europe Week in Katowice this year, you can see a few more flags added to the number of countries I just listed. You can see the Slovenian flag, you can see the Portuguese flag, and you can't see the French flag because it's hidden somewhere, and you can also see the Ukrainian flag. And why is this? This is because we will grow even bigger. So our consortium our family is growing even bigger, with the University of Primorska joining our consortium in Slovenia, with the Catholic University of Portugal joining us. The Jean Monnet University in France will also join us. And the Mariupol State University in Ukraine will become an associated member to our consortium, so that we can collaborate and support the Ukrainian university even better at the moment. So, what do we do concretely? I have listed here our main goals. They are quite abstract, but I will tell you in a second what our actions actually are. So really, on an abstract level, we are building a strategic and sustainable alliance to educate a new generation of knowledge entrepreneurs. As the speaker before me said, transformation is really the key element in our alliance. So we are focusing on digital transformation, environmental transformation, and societal transformation. I said this is quite abstract. What does this mean on a concrete level? So what have we achieved so far? At the moment, we are developing joint challenge-based study programs on all study cycles, so on a bachelor level, on a master level, and we are also creating the framework for PhD studies. What we've achieved so far is, on a bachelor level, we have opened bachelor track courses where our students can choose courses from other partner universities, visit them online or in a hybrid mode or even on site and get ECTS. Mobility is, of course, as Ineta said, it's a key objective of our alliance, and it was really hard to achieve our mobility goals in the corona pandemic. So we have created a format which allows short-term mobility, which is called Transform for Europe Week. And we had our first Transform for Europe Week this year in Katowice. And you can see how much fun it was. You can see people dancing. It was really nice. People could get together, students, academic staff, administrative staff, and we will have these kinds of events next year at all of our partner universities. So just take a mental note. Maybe this would be interesting for you in the next year, in 2023, to take part in. Then we have already running chair exchange programs. The call for the last chair exchange program for this term just closed last week. Then our amazing hosts here at Vytautas Magnus University organized the first Transform for Europe Festival of Culture this year, which was an amazing success. And it will also be organized a culture festival at the University of Silesia in the next year. So maybe this is interesting for you or your students as well. Lifelong learning is also a really important part of our project, and we have created professional development webinars for academic and administrative staff. As I also said, entrepreneurial engagement and entrepreneurial mindset is quite important for us to educate our students in, and at the moment students are applying for an award, are working on their business plans for this entrepreneurial engagement award. Last but not least, we have an own project which is dedicated only for bringing researchers and research infrastructures together, which is T4ERI, our project Transform for Europe for Research and Innovation. So this is also interesting for researchers, and as this is, of course, a really big task, it is its own project within Transform for Europe. So my voice is breaking. So I will keep it very short. I just wanted to present to you how big, how important innovative teaching is in the program of our alliance. So you can see here a few of our actions in this regard. And as you can see on number 3, that's us right now. We are at the moment achieving a really important milestone of our alliance. Last but not least, before I give the words to the experts, I kindly ask you to stay in touch with us, just like these people do during the Culture Festival in Kaunas. So please follow us on social media, have a look at our website, and don't miss any of the exciting events we have coming up for the next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zina, for this short but detailed information about our alliance, and we are very happy that it will expand with new partners. So this will help us to achieve and to have even more ambitious plans for the future. So we are on time, and we would like to thank our guests for their introductory notes and wishes of the success. So we have small tokens of appreciation for you, and would like to share some spirits of our universities. And now we have to turn into the expertise field, and the keynote speech by Professor Gintautas Mažeikis on the topic, the third wave of critical theory and critical pedagogy. So, dear Professor, please come on stage, but we need to change the slides. And I would like also to say a few words. Professor Gintautas Mažeikis is a philosopher, and he's also a head of the Social and Political Critique Center at our Vytautas Magnus University. His research is mainly devoted to critical theory and political philosophy, cultural studies, social work, and activism. In the field of critical theory and research, his interests include political anthropology, educational hermeneutics, political communication and propaganda, and postmodern philosophical anthropology. He's an author of numerous papers and books, and those academic results analyze problems of propaganda, evil, and cultural politics. So moreover, Professor is a very active public intellectual, speaking and commenting on very diverse social and cultural tensions of modern life. Moreover, he is also involved and follows and expresses his insights on the events of Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. And what is very important, at least for me, and I hope for you, as always listening to the professor is like an event itself. Therefore, I'm very eager to give a floor to you, Gintautas. I hope we all enjoy your new ideas.
So, thank you. I think that we could work together for, I will provide my lecture for somewhere 45 minutes, and then I will invite you to ask some questions or to debate my ideas. It will be very nice to hear from you some some response. Actually, before I started announced lecture, which is more critical, I would like to react on the opening because actually you decided, or you are here in order to discuss the future technologies and methods of education for transforming of Europe. And I thought about what critical pedagogy and critical theory could say about it, because critical pedagogy and critical theory always cares and speaks about future, and futurism, it's one of the most important topics. But there, critical theory separates two forms of speaking about future, dystopian and utopian, I would say. One of them, there I would like to pay attention about dystopian topic, because your soul was, you know, friendly and happy future that I need to mention about dystopias, because, you know, that dystopia, the genre in literature and films, is much more popular than utopia or some positive visions of future. And dystopia or threats for future or threats of future, it's very popular between people. And, you know, all technologies ordinary are presented as some threat for future. Even you remember in the COVID period, it was about vaccination. That's what means vaccination. Vaccination is the gate to the dystopia, you know, this is to the disaster. And this is the form of imagination which is more popular than some progressive projects of future. And what does mean this dystopia according popularity of dystopias between audiences? According critical theory, it's first of all alienation from future, alienation of distancing or estrangement from future, because future looks or presents some danger or threat for us. Or, for example, in the contemporary period, we could imagine the future of Ukrainian-Russia war as nuclear disaster, future as a nuclear disaster, and there we start to fear what will happen with us, and was the sense of our life, and immediately do we need to develop some technologies if the world is going to the end. You know, this is the problem, and critical theory says that this popularity of dystopia, because of cultural industries and creative industries, this popularity means alienation from future. And what to do in order to appropriate future for us, you know, to show that attractiveness of the future, but not dangerous, how to escape. And this is one of the possibilities to criticize dystopia. Dystopia is critique of future. And there we have to present, or we can to present the critique of critique. You know, it's very, I would say, Hegelian or even Marxist solution, the critique of dystopias. What does mean this critique of dystopias? Critique of dystopias have to show why we alienated through dystopias from the future. And why do we need to develop our hopes or utopias? Utopias means, first of all, some social or appropriated form of hope and vision of future, and how many poets, writers, and producers could present attractive future for us, and could he compete on the market of dystopias, And dystopian thinking as well supports, you know, the easiest for destruction of our future. So because we love dystopias, we accept the possibility to destruct the future, the future to not only alienate but to destruct the ways to future, you know. And this is as well quite popular, especially between politicians, between social activists and politicians, how to escape. And this is as well the reason of conservatism about future possibilities, and the absence of the visions and the absence of the visions of the future. And because we don't have attractive visions of the future, we or the pictures of the future, which just decide how to survive in our time in the best way, you know, how to survive, how to get pleasure from our time. And all the techniques and technologies are oriented not about the future, but about development of the contemporary, you know, to solve some problems of contemporary non-comfortability. How we change, how we lie about our future, because we start to think not about future projects, but about bigger comfortability of the contemporary life. And this is new form of a conservative approach to the utopia, conservative approach to the utopia. Actually, there are some possibilities how to develop these visions of future, and it's really interesting that China, from the beginning, starting somewhere from 2015, invested a lot to the science fiction, to supporting of science fiction, and I found it's very important, you know, to create some grants for the writers and producers in the field of science fiction in order to support and to provide positive vision, not only negative, but as well positive vision of the future, and to present some pictures. It's very interesting that I try to find contemporary writers on utopias which could write bestsellers, you know, that who are very popular, not in the dystopian or weird literature like Jack Van Meyer, but in the utopian field, and there are only few writers which were successful. One of them is Ursula Le Guin. Ursula Le Guin, she's an American writer and anthropologist. She died a decade ago, and she wrote a few very successful utopias, completely bestsellers. One of them with the title The Dispossessed, and another is Always Coming Home. And The Dispossessed is very interesting, and I found that this her book is very related to the critical theory, because she presents very rhizomatic and autonomous way of education. I would present later for you rhizomatic, which is not, I would say, not very innovative from philosophical point of view, but probably it's very innovative from utopian genre point of view and pedagogical point of view. This is as well was mentioned about that future, digital future and digital dystopia could be, okay, ecological or environmental future and environmental dystopias, you know, as well. You spoke about social future, you know, and I would say that we will find more social dystopias and distractiveness, which are very popular. So we could there to start to speak a little bit about third wave of critical theory and critical pedagogy. And there was a little bit about critical pedagogy. I'm not sure that critical pedagogy is completely correspond the task and needs of your association, you know, because that's because I don't I'm not very involved in your project. Maybe I do some mistakes, but what I checked on in your program, it's not related to the critical pedagogy, because critical pedagogy cares first of all about limiting of oppression and development of freedoms and limiting of oppression. And but critical pedagogy considers pedagogy in general, that pedagogy is the introduction to social future in the name of freedom. This is very simple. The critical pedagogy cares about social future, but in utopian and hope sense, to criticize in order to open our utopian vision, to criticize in order to open utopian vision, or to criticize in order to see someone on the other side. There I would say, I would like to do one remark about Aldous Huxley. You know this, this writer, Aldous Huxley, The Brave New World, and there are many of fictions and films about the Brave New World. And the Brave New World, one of the example of dystopia. It's not about utopia. About, dystopia of society of welfare, I would say, which we would like to build, a society of welfare, which could be presented as one of the case of as one of the dystopian case, I would say. And later, the same writer, Aldous Huxley, tried to write at least one utopia. And he wrote the novel with the title The Iceland. And it was collapse for him. Nobody read, everybody criticized. That's very boring, absolutely boring, unreadable, and very large book, I would say. This is, you see how it was difficult to transform himself from the one genre to the another genre. Actually, Aldous Huxley wrote another few books devoted to the using of LSD and mescalitos, drugs, hallucinogens. He didn't consider it as some kind of utopia. He just discussed these hallucinogens in the beginning of 60s. It was a very popular topic in the United States. He considered this topic as some kind of technical instrument for the development of our mind, for the enlarging of our possibilities, opening the door to the new realities. But many of readers later accepted this one, his considerations, as utopian, and which became popular even differently from his real utopia. In a way, pedagogy is introduction to social future, and critical pedagogy criticizes standard pedagogy. That means I have to criticize your approaches, or you could criticize my approaches that could promote or can promote social alienation, contempt, new forms of oppression, educational blindness, exploitation, and manipulation. There is the most interesting probably is educational blindness. That people are after deep education becomes completely blind to social problems. They are alienated. They become quite cynical about the future of all. That there is a French writer, Michel Houellebecq, who wrote a lot of books, very cynical dystopian books about liberal cynical future, some kind of the other side of Francis Fukuyama say that that liberal democracy will win and it will be the end of history. And Michel Houellebecq decided to show what kind of the end of history expects us, and he showed that very educated future society will be completely atomized. And these completely atomized people will be absolutely cynical about each other, but with a huge technologies of healthcare, and information, healthcare and information. And he presented pictures of absolutely terrible future, which even you, after reading of his book, you could decide never to go to your society, that's never to think about future, because that's so terrible, terrible expectations. And the critical pedagogy, this criticizes educational blindness which could open the doors for such kind of dystopians. Critical pedagogy supports the search for forms of resistance to oppression and new practices of social freedoms. It means that critical pedagogy is not only about critique, analysis and critique of the different forms of pedagogy, but as well it's about searching of new social forms, and especially to support autonomism and situationism and I would say solidarity, social solidarity, new forms of social solidarity and cooperation, exceptionally important things. And in the COVID period, many of critical pedagogists say that it's body solidarity, it's very important. It's not just communicative solidarity through the networking, but as well body consciousness. It means touching of each other, it's very social, to feel your friends together, not to be alienated, like in this one picture of dancing in Vytautas Magnus in Kaunas, that people touches each other hands by hands. Actually, maybe it's not very good sanitary hygiene, to touch each other, but okay, you should to decide, would you like to be alone or to experience this threat, of viruses. Okay, this is as well, because communication means not only exchanging by information. Critical pedagogy is horizontal, first of all. It's not about this criticize all hierarchical structures. It's very horizontal. Radical, this is critiques or critical about institutions. Leftist supports spontaneity, which I mentioned, situationism, dialogism. Critical pedagogy is based on the contemporary critical theory and post-structuralism. And there I would like to say actually a few words about critical theory. What does mean it? Because critical theory has a much longer philosophical, especially philosophical history than critical pedagogy, and in order to prove or to develop critical pedagogy, many of contemporary followers of this doctrine, they study critical theory and try to connections. I mean, for example, Henri Giroux, one of the leaders of critical pedagogy, he studies such authors like Herbert Marcuse or Theodor Adorno. This is a relationship. 4 issues of critical theory don't mix with critical pedagogy. Critical theory and critical pedagogy is not the same. Critical pedagogy is only about critique of pedagogical issues and society, and critical theory is philosophical theory. But critical theory it's as well has some issues, to understand, which later you will probably I will explain why do we need it. First issue is Kantian understanding of the enlightenment. Kant, you remember, wrote that enlightenment is liberation from our immaturity, or liberation from incapability to think for themselves. And the other issue of critical theory is Marxism, actually. Marxist critiques of social relationships, and first of all, Marxist understanding of social alienation, systems of exploitation, and ideological substitution of thinking. Ideological substitution of thinking is the other term, or the other concept to explain propaganda. Propaganda, and it is ideological substitution of thinking. That someone substitutes our thinking by some artificial schemes and the values. How you have to understand some problems and situations, like in Ukraine, for example. But first of all, Marxism, classical Marxism especially cares about the different forms of social alienations. It means about becoming alone and, and disoriented in social world. The third issue is Max Weber, Weberian understanding of social role of imaginary and ethics. This is why I started from sci-fi, science fiction, utopias and dystopias, because it's Weberian, and Max Weber developed the sociology of imaginary, sociology of imagination, and how do we imagine with the world, and how this imaginary provides and supports some ethical issues of our life. Marx was less involved into social imaginary, less pay attention about how different social groups imagine the future, and he just thought that there is a very strong logic of historical development, and there he followed Hegel. I will not develop this side of story, but for us just enough to remember about this importance of social imaginary, which comes through the institutions. And I would say that universities have to develop social imaginary, like in the utopian or sci-fi, but I would say that I found rather analysis and critique of social imaginary, or just development of some instrumental skills, but not about social imaginary directly, social imaginary directly. I don't hear, I didn't remember any competition, public competition for the best, for example, imaginary project about something, this utopian imaginary project. That's how could we do it? It's rather much more easy to criticize. And the fourth issue is psychoanalytical interpretation of the passions and desires. For example, yesterday I participated in one discussion with colleagues from Poland and Ukraine about the differences between Russian understanding of the war in Ukraine and Ukrainian understanding of the war. There are many of differences, but we found the most interesting two of them: motivation and passion. How could every side to motivate each other, and what does it mean for them motivation, and why this artificial motivation, propaganda, artificial motivation in Russia doesn't work, and why Ukrainian motivation is so strong. That's because this motivation is based even on ethnic literature and folklore. This is very deep. And the second is about passion. What kind of passion do you have for the solving of the problem, and how deep these passions are? Are they short time oriented or long time or long time passions? And if we are talking about long time passions, this is very difficult for technical civilization to fight people who have deep passions. And there we compared Taliban with Ukrainians. Actually, Ukrainians probably were not happy about this, similarities. But what was interesting about Taliban, because Taliban fight it at the end, NATO and United States in some one way. And how they achieved this, the excellent result without any good weapons. They don't have no technologies, no weapons. They don't have any transforming for Europe. But what do they have? They have motivation and passion, and very deep passion. And NATO NATO didn't have no vision, no passion, no deep motivation. And the soldiers who supported pro-American regime, democratic, not very democratic, but rather corrupted regime in Kabul, they as well didn't have no deep passion for future, no deep motivation about it. And what you could do with American technologies against the tribes with the passion and motivation. It show for us that the passion and motivation always wins against technologies, you know. This is much more important. And Ukrainians have in this one case, and technologies and passion and motivation is the best. Is the best way. And so psychoanalytical interpretation and passions and desires as well presents critique of them, because ordinarily we have very deep trauma, and this is traumatic passions or traumatic attention approach to our passions, and as well some memorial problems, and this is why this psychoanalytical psychoanalysis is very important. And later, critical pedagogy used many of these issues as well. One of the most important topic for the both for critical theory and for critical pedagogy is the critique critique of oppression through alienation. And they just would like just quote some forms of alienation in order to remember you what we are talking about. That very classical Marxist, according Marx, form of alienation is alienation of the worker from his product. You know, that's ordinary happens now everywhere. You know, everywhere. Even at the universities, for example, between administration, who just ordinary feels alienation, and we don't. And professors sometimes don't care about administrators who are alienated from the work. One of the one of the possibility how to fight this alienation from his product is to ask or to provide the interest. What kind of interest do you have in this project? If you don't show any interest, your personal interest in the development of this project, you need to leave the cooperation with such people, because this personal, not just abstract interest, but very personal interest is very important. It's socialization in the project means. The second form, alienation of the worker from the work actions, from the production, production process. It means quite often, you know, that people who participate in projects, they would like sometimes to have product, but don't like to participate too much about the process. You know, but the process has its own value. And to be in the process, sometimes it's even bigger happiness than even the product which you get at the end. And to create this attractiveness of the process, or socialize the process, it's as well very important. The third form, alienation of the worker from his species essence, of species, I mean as a worker and as a human being. That this means that for example, the participant in the project should feel that through this project, through the results and the processes, he expressed his own essence as a human being, his own essence as a human being, that it's for his existence, it's this is very important. And in this case, you will find that how it's different to motivate people who are invited just for instrumental supporting, for this instrumental supporting. That's because, okay, this is just for money. Fourth form, alienation of the employee from the other employees, loss of solidarity and empathy. This is very often happen, you know, in alienated society, atomarian society, atomized people society, where people don't feel possibility for the building of cooperation and solidarity. And the crisis of solidarity characterizes many of Western societies. Sometimes critical pedagogists do mistake here, and there I listened even today at the morning when I prepare for my lecture. I listened one lecture of Henri Giroux, where he criticized that Polish people who don't support refugees. You know, it was probably in 2020, from 2020 to 2021. The same he could criticize this in the same way he could criticize Lithuania. No differences between Lithuanian and Poland approach to stop this migration, or as we call in Lithuania, to stop Lukashenko's business, of this refugees traffic. It's new concept. Refugees traffic. What they are doing? They develop business in refugees traffic. And Poland and Lithuania stopped, and EU very criticized Poland and Lithuania, and as well Russia. And Russia was very happy from this critique that, look, that we are not alone who calls the Lithuanians and Poles as a fascist. Look, EU could do the same. But now it's completely changed, the situation for 2020. Because Lithuania and Poland accepted, first of all, very big waves from migrants from Belarus, but Belarusian people who tried to escape from Lukashenko's regime, and then millions of people from Ukraine. Approximately Poland accepted approximately 7-8 millions from Ukraine refugees. It's much more bigger quantities than Germany or Sweden did before it. The countries who criticized Poland and Lithuania that we are not open, you see, but now we could criticize, you are not open, that's completely different. This is it means that the concept of solidarity and concept of empathy was considered in very abstract way. That solidarity and empathy, according to critical pedagogy, solidarity and empathy should be considered in very situationist way. It's not about abstract it's not abstraction. It's about situation. That some countries could show even bigger solidarity. Why Poles show so big solidarity and empathy for Ukrainian refugees? There are many answers about it. Maybe because they are Christian Catholics, very deep Catholics. This is Catholic moral imaginary, how to support each other. This is as well historical roots and historical relationships. There are many of them, which facts that could explain why Poland accepted so big quantity of refugees. But they would say just from this point that institutional analysis and abstract analysis not always help for us to understand social reality. And critical pedagogy and critical theory pays attention about analysis of situation, or that our knowledge should be situated, in the context and the political process. So it should be situated in the context and political process. This is important. Fifth, alienation in the family due to general productive alienation and due to the specialization of relations. Alienation in family actually destroys families. Alienation among peers due to the mirror effect of capitalist society and the spectacle. Alienation among peers creates some sort of hate and violence between peers on the horizontal level. And this is oppression on the horizontal level. It means that oppression comes not only from the hierarchies of power, from the up to down, but as well violence could be and oppression could be created on the down level, on the lowest level of society, and from the down to up, This is as well interesting. Racial and gender alienation for you, I think it's quite clear, and there are many other forms of alienation. Ways to remove alienation, I mentioned about it, creative and inclusive cooperation, political solidarity, I mentioned, inclusive culture and participation, or participatory culture, participatory democracy, social development of various forms of empathy. This is as well very, very important. And sometimes social development of various forms of empathy is more even important than learning at the school. And I have the class the class with the title Social Critique, where I have students from African countries. This is as well for me first time experience, and not from the Central Eastern Europe somewhere, but from the Africa, from Mozambique or Nigeria, And we discussed a lot with them about various forms of empathy and how it's important for them. What we found a lot of similarities. One example for you. What is more important, to learn mathematics or to go on the margins of school to smoke together with friends? Smoking is completely forbidden. That in the schools you couldn't do it, even because especially you have 60 you teenager, for example, and you and it's completely forbidden, and pupils should decide what is more important for them: to learn for the teacher, to be good and to answer, or to go to smoke and to break the law. That's the answer. It's always should be situated. Or the answer always should be situated. But there are many situations where smoking together with colleagues is much more important than being the best in mathematical class, being the best in the mathematical class, because this smoking means socialization, the creation of power in the groups dynamics, development of empathy, development of and capability of risk for your friends, devotion for your friends, and many others, very important things. And what they learn in mathematics, just to answer for the future exam. For the very abstract exam, without any sureness that they will need this knowledge at least one time per their life. And this smoking together with friends, the breaking of rules, could mean much more, because when I would say here, what happened, that's with the people in because I will not have so many time, everything to tell. That it I will show one example for you. I participated in Maidan. I just will jump. This is self-education Euromaidan 2013-2014. I participated in this Maidan, but I was not interested so much about this Molotov cocktails, and the different, issues. The other was very interesting for me, because there you see on your right side, very interesting picture, which on my opinion, you see that there was not one scene, but two scenes on Maidan. Ordinary, or those who watched television, you see the only one scene, but not two scenes. One of scene was political, very political, which is very related to public relations, propaganda, everything what Ukrainians did in this big scene. And there, some few hundred meters on side, was the second scene of Maidan, which was with the title Maidan University. It was Open Maidan University, where people learn and studied in the period of this 1 year. That was very interesting, that this one Maidanian rebellions, they created the new university, and how they did it. First of all, it was Kievo-Mogilyanska Academy, the teachers and professors and the students from this Kievo-Mogilyanska Academy. Why this academy is so important? Because Maidan started from the students of this academy. You know, they were the first who protested against, against Yanukovych, who didn't sign association with the EU, and they came to protest against his, because he chose Russian side. They started to protest, and police came, they break their protest on the Maidan, and everything started from this beginning. And later, when students returned back together with professors, they created second scene, or second stage on the Maidan, and it was Maidan University. And I have a honor. For me, it was completely an honor to teach in this university. It was quite difficult, I would say. I was not prepared for such, teaching. It was completely cold, in the winter time to teach, there, and it's unbelievable, because that's to teach more than 40 minutes or 30 minutes, it was impossible. That's because cold, that's and to answer. But from the other side, people don't have time to listen you if you just speak not about situation, and not about the future. If you would like, these people accepted the only critical pedagogy. No other pedagogy, just the only critical pedagogy about how the standard pedagogy is bad, what we do need to learn in this Maidan, in our rebellion, how do we need to change that, what we need to do for social transformation, and if you would like, what we have to do for Europe transformation. And I remember that in this one lecture, I tell them about that this Maidan is the center for Europe transformation. Was my lecture devoted to the question of Europe transformation. That's completely what is coincide with the object of your research, but I didn't consider that such kind of possibilities, because for me it was like I said for them, look, do you think that there is some other center in the Europe? No, the center in the Europe, or the main event in the world, is here. We are now in the center. This is the most important. What we have to learn from this being in the center. From this being in the center, we need to learn that we need to transform Europe. Not just Ukraine, not just Kiev, but Europe. It's very difficult, because we don't know how to do it completely, because we don't have even skills to do it, even imaginary, but to do it. But we have passion and motivation, which I commented. And the others, they have ideas, they have technologies, they have where with him, and they know how, but why they don't know answer. And we have answer and passion. Thank you. Questions, yeah.
Probably that the others will hear us. Thank you, Gintas, for this inspiring speech. As I said, I always eager to listen to you, and it's kind of also generates other thoughts. And moreover, just last week, because of the meeting in Charlotte, actually I was mentioning similar things, and I was also showing slides on dystopian, novels like Huxley and the others. So it seems that we are, those who are coming from the field of humanities, we are in more or less similar discourse. So I will continue, but first of all, I would like to ask for your comments, reactions, and who would like to ask. Please go ahead.
Thank you for very stimulating presentation. I want to ask about, is it I correctly understood that conservative thinking is to think about past as utopia and future as dystopia, or more socialistic thinking to think about past as dystopia and future as utopia? Is it correct?
Not very, I would say, not very correct. I didn't use this concept of conservative in just political sense, and this is why I didn't use socialist concept. When I spoke about conservative, I meant this, that conservatism means, first of all, care about tradition, you know. That's tradition is, for us, it's the most important. And that this traditionalist thinking ordinary emphasizes the past, you know, and studies of history and past. This is for them as well important, and the critique of future as that some kind of threat. And so we need to defend ourselves from future through the studying of our history and studying of our lessons. We have to learn lessons from the history. But, you know, this kind of education, learning of lessons from history, it's always, you know, this is always not about this is always not about opening gates, if you would like. And this is always about that you know that there is some joke about generals, who wins the war, not those who thinks about former wars, you know. It means that every new war means completely new situation, and if your mind is oriented the only, I emphasize this, the only, to the learning of lessons from the last period, from the history, it means that you will lost your war. Contemporary war, because this is, you know, different approach. Then I didn't think that a conservative approach to the tradition means utopization of the past. Ordinary in the political philosophy, we use the other concept, the myth of gold age, myth of gold period, you know, mythologization of the past. Because utopia, ordinary, starting from, not only from Thomas More's utopias, but even from Bibleist even Jerusalem means as well the hope about future. It's not about the past. And conservative approach that would like to present some story in the past as some gold period of our life, you know, and then would like to orient our contemporary actions to this gold past, you know. It means like going back. That's okay. It means like fear to look in the eyes of future, into the eyes of future. And I'm not sure that socialists are always open to the future, you know, as well. But in any way, they try to create some utopia sometimes. This is as well very long, probably very long discussion, because all socialists are very different. And, you know, if somebody calls themselves like a socialist or communist, it doesn't mean that they are socialists. Probably they are very conservative. Majority of communists are completely conservative people, you know. Look at the contemporary China, party meeting. This is absolutely conservative people. Their cares about golden past. They would like to return to market Maoism. I would say this is some kind of strange, and I'm not sure that we could. So I don't agree with your proposal how to think it.
It's just different. Okay, some more questions, please. Go ahead.
I'm very interested in your idea about the third wave of critical pedagogy. So I'm curious about, because I haven't really find your clear definition about the so-called third wave. Because some people, they probably use third wave to refer to the distinction from the past political dimension of critical pedagogy and versus the ecological or environmental protection critical pedagogy. So I'm curious your idea about this. So this is my first question. The other question is, I'm a teacher educator. So I'm very curious about your understanding, because in education, as far as I know, most people, they were confused with critical pedagogy and critical thinking. And I do think they have quite different, motivation and all the idea. So I would like to hear more about your understanding and your experience about that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. About third wave. First of all, I take this concept of third wave not from critical pedagogy, but from critical theory. And this is a very classical periodization. The first period means Horkheimer, Adorno, Marcuse. The second, and it was about critique of oppression and alienation and similar. And the Nazi and the critique of cultural industries. The second period was more utopian. It's about Karl Ottopel and Jürgen Habermas, and it's about communicative theory. And they started to create some deliberative projects of quite utopian deliberative democracy, and rational world, rational society, and how to build new rational society. It's very similar, and they very influenced German social policy and German education in this period. Yeah, until now, I would say until now. And the third period is Axel Honneth and the different post-structuralists who start to speak about anxiety in the society, and they say that this some cultural products like dystopian creates anxiety and they alienate from us future. What I tell you about it's from the third period. Then I started to speak about critical pedagogy. Critical pedagogy has not officially such kind of separation into first, second, and third wave. But if we will compare critical pedagogy with the critical theory, there are possibility to speak about three the same or similar or analogous three waves. Then concerning to the critical thinking in schools and education, critical thinking, development of skills of critical thinking is not about critical theory and critical pedagogy. There I could discuss with you. Critical theory and critical thinking, it's not the same because, for example, propaganda, any propaganda, is even Nazi propaganda, Soviet propaganda, always emphasizes the importance of critical thinking. They said you have to criticize, for example, Soviet Union, you have to criticize this American propaganda, you have to criticize this, bullshit from, China and somewhere, and vice versa. Americans would say, okay, you have to criticize this communist propaganda from Soviet Union, even from French, probably this to criticize their leftists and to criticize especially cultural revolution in China and so on. So this critical thinking, the paradigm of critical thinking, in many times, according to propaganda point of view, means nothing, completely nothing. Why? Why a critical theory means nothing? Because critical theory doesn't discuss the issues, theoretical issues of critical approach. For example, it could be a Kantian approach to the critical theory. Okay, this is critical theory, but Kantian critical, for example, critical thinking. Okay, this Kantian critical thinking. Okay, I could accept it. There is Kantian critical thinking. Marxist critical thinking. There is possibility because we call paradigm. This critical theory critical thinking or post-structural critical thinking. This is when we discuss the paradigm. Now it's much more clear what we are talking about. Then the abstract critical thinking means nothing.
Our project is not relative to critical pedagogy.
First of all, I am not sure about it because it's my first participation. Maybe I did very big mistake. Sorry.
I think it's very relevant.
No. I want to know how it could be changed, the project, for being relative to critical pedagogy. It's the first my question. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it should be.
Yeah. But for me, it's much more interesting how it could be, you know. And my answer is, you know, that I didn't tell you a story about Ernst Bloch. Ernst Bloch, it's as well some very related to the critical theory man who wrote the book, The Principle of Hope. The Principle of Hope was 3 volumes, very big. And where he developed the importance of development of hope, and he considered it was at the end of Second World War he wrote these books in this period. So he considered in which field our hopes could be developed, you know, and how could we develop our hopes. It's very similar what I tell you about utopian genre, but not only about utopian genre. This is as well very important about our things, or about our songs and singing, as well about our poetry and verses, you know. This is as well instrument how to develop our hope, you know. Hope means opening not only passion, but as well intuition, you know. And how could we accept and to understand, how could we open the gate to the future without intuition? That the only intuition are oriented about the future, and our logical thinking mostly are oriented about our past, you know. This is not about future. Even induction or deduction, scientific induction, deduction is always about past results. And the only intuition, artistic intuition, poetic intuition, opens for us the gate for future. This is why literature, novels are very important as well, not only science fiction about utopian, science fiction about dystopian, distracted, and so on, which I tell in my lecture. And yes, I agree that probably your project could involve all these things and could be very relevant. Sorry if I criticize too much.
No, I'm not. Well, the second question. You said Maidan was the very source of transformation of Europe, the very source of critical pedagogy, if you wish. So, what's the role of the universities now? What's the relation between Maidan and university? This is my more important?
Yeah, I think that I could not answer about all Ukrainian universities, you know, and our universities, because every university is quite different. I follow only few of them. Some of them more or less passive, you know, and like at the beginning it was, on my opinion, Taras Shevchenko University, very classical university in the Kiev, and the other is very revolutionary, like Kievo-Mogilyansk Academy, you know, in the Kiev. It's quite different. Now I'm sure that probably this Taras Shevchenko University is as well in the very big transformation. Then I a lot discussed with Mariupol State University, and now it's in exile in different places, in Lviv, in Kiev, even in Lithuania. So this is because after occupation of Mariupol, you know that, and this again was quite interesting. Mariupol, the example of Mariupol University, that example of Kiev-Mogilyansk Academy I presented with in the Euromaidan. Then, but Kiev, this Mariupol University is very interesting as well. First of all, they understood that Mariupol State University developed Ukrainian identity in Mariupol in the period of 8 years, you know, from the 2014, you know, 2022, you know, and this project was very successful, and they invested into humanities a lot, and they said before them, many of technical colleges and filials of technical universities were in Mariupol, but they didn't care about Ukrainian identity, Ukrainian memory, and the local memory of especially Greeks, local Greeks memory, and they don't, and they were not ready to fight for the independence, no to create some solidarities groups, no to be social involved into your political actions, and the only investment into humanities studies, you know, into literature, poetry, if you would like, into languages in Mariupol University. They did revolutionary work in this city to defend the city, to fight against aggression for so long period, and so, you know, in some heroic way, you know. How it's happened? Because Mariupol University. And Mariupol University students were in the center of this defense. This is show that one of the example how it's happened. So we could compare experience of Kievo-Mogilyansk Academy, and so we could compare the experiences of Mariupol University. Probably we will collect some lessons for us.
Thank you a lot, dear Gintas. I think that we can continue our discussions downstairs where the coffee is served, and network and ask more questions, and of course reflect on this beautiful lecture. As I said, it's always very stimulating to listen to Professor Mažeikis. So thank you for your participation once again, and let's enjoy coffee and the company. And not to forget that for university, and most probably the colleague asked the role of the universities in general, so we should think, you know, day and night most probably, what is the difference between the educational sectors, education providers, and the universities? That universities should keep this fundamental basis for discussing critical thinking, critical theory, and literature, philosophy is very important. So don't forget that, and please enjoy the coffee. Thank you for coming and joining this.